variations of the same thing. You know, you could almost say that that's what's happening here in terms of mostly what is mostly black, but you know, you can say the same thing is happening here in terms of the people being and the situations being neutralized by the government. And what we have to do is find out ways of politicizing instead of allowing them to neutralize, you know, the situation. That's what we have to do, you know, and that's why we encourage people that if they don't have local organizations already that they belong to, or to start one, start an organization against racism and police brutality. Um, you know, and to link up with other folks from this meeting, for instance. You know, let's start linking up and start building and bringing other people, you know, who weren't able to attend this event, and you know, and so on, and start organizing your local community. And we'll have a kit, sort of a kit we call it, so that people understand what actions to take and so forth. You know, some people don't really need it, but you know, really, it's still offered to you. You know, some people will understand that they need a little something based on experience. You know, we did this over here, and we do this, and blah blah. Try this, and, you know, and so on. And we have a discussion list. You know, I know that's old-fashioned, old school now with Twitter and all this other stuff, but we need something to be able to discuss this stuff among ourselves. It's like the cops got their list, and they talk about how many people were shot and all that bullshit, and how the attorneys, we had to trick the attorneys, they do, you know, we need a discussion list of our own, you know, activists against police brutality in all over the country. We need to be able to do that. You know. So, yeah, we're going, we're glad you came, we need to link up first. No question. Um,
You know, I want to just say one thing, this thing about, that Kate mentioned about how a lot of times the neighborhood associations may meet like in a police department or something like
yeah.
that. You know, and it is like you say, it's really intimidating for a lot of people if they want to have a complaint. When I used to live in Southwest Michigan, and you know, and at that time I owned, you know, I sold the house since then, but I owned the house, and we had the neighborhood association meeting. Every agenda, the police were on the agenda, you know, and um, um, so I never went to those meetings because I said, well, yeah, you know, yeah, I'm a homeowner, I'm in this neighborhood, but I didn't want to go to meetings where the police were going to be there. I didn't see what business they had being at a neighborhood association. They don't have anything to do unless they own the home in the neighborhood themselves, you know. So that's a typical thing, and people don't feel free. Lorenzo was reminding me that a couple of weeks ago, the mayor and the, the police director had a community meeting to talk about police community relations. It was really a PR thing for the police department. That's what it was. Uh, they were supposed to have held it before, but it got postponed because a black female cop was shot and killed back in December on one of those no-knock warrants. The person on the other side of the door, you know, I don't know whether they had drugs or not, but regardless, it was a no-knock warrant. She got shot and killed, so that was a big deal and everything, and they postponed the meeting. But they had it a couple of weeks ago. And they really had meant it to be a kind of a PR thing for the police and the police director. But what happened was, two of the families whose people were on this list, they came out and they challenged the police. In fact, the mother of Justin Thompson, the 15-year-old, she came there, you know, and said, look, you know, what is the cover-up going on here about my son's death? Why can't the truth be told? And then the other young man who was killed back in January, Stephen Askew, was killed because he fell asleep in his car. His people came out. And that's not how the city council, well, not the city council, the police director and the mayor expected that meeting to go. They really wanted to be a thing where people from the neighborhood associations would come and talk about, oh, the police are great, we've got so much crime, they're protecting us against crime. So that meeting backfired on them because, in fact, and I like to think that we helped because we knew about the meeting and we told the family members. We didn't go ourselves because we think it's pointless for us to go. But we thought it might be good for them to go as family members. So we told them. And that's how they knew about it and they went. That's the kind of thing they do here. They try to put these kind of meetings on. But in that instance, it backfired because they got family members who had people lying in the cemetery now. They want to know what happened. Why did you do this? So, without
I want to say that the main way that many things can be neutralized in the community is through the neighborhood watch program. Use the neighborhood watch program, they would invite the police to come.
Yeah.
And basically, it's been turned upside down. The neighborhood watch people think that they're supposed to report to the police, instead of the police reporting to them. So therefore, when the agenda, when the police person comes in, that person, is taking over the meeting. In other words, trying to get information from people in the community rather than being directed by the community on problems. So a lot of things that happen that should happen in terms of protest that's neutralized by this structure in the community itself. And I was able to observe it in the Raleigh area. I worked with a CDC, Community Development Corporation, and this guy, he was also over the neighborhood watch, and they would bring these majors or whatever from the police department in that neighborhood watch meeting. Basically, the neighborhood watch person said, y'all are our eyes in the community. It came out directly said that.
Yeah.
And so this is the kind of thing that we have to, in other words, understand in the community, most conservative elements of the community itself, that feel like they're inundated by crime. They feel like they have to become informants to the police, so in every instance, instead of any kind of organizing taking place around issues like, that happen in the community itself or the neighborhood itself, it's been neutralized by that structure. So we have to understand that when we talk about organizing against the state, that the state has created certain structures inside our community that have basically, and people, like you said, these places are, they're not massive people coming to that because the police is going to be relieved. So therefore, everything is neutralized because there's no trust or confidence in the police department, and particularly if they're going to be in a meeting in your neighborhood, that they're going to stay away from those kind of meetings. I just want to say that.
and what it also does too is that you have a situation with these neighborhood watches. Essentially, what it is, you have people in the community who wind up snitching on other people in the community. Your neighbor could be a snitch. My thing is, the police get paid, let them do their jobs. We're not responsible for, if somebody's gonna break in my house, yeah, we will defend our house, but that's our house. But if we wind up being snitches for people, wind up being snitches for the police. So that creates further disruption. You disrupt the unity in the community because people know who the snitches are. Say, well, I'm gonna talk to them, because people know. They know who they are. So you don't have that. You can't get that unity in the community because of that.
If you all get a chance to read a book, it's called Snitch Nation. And in that book, they talk about how the government used the whole process of snitching, political snitching, with the counterintelligence program, as well as, primarily the ghetto informant program, which is distinct from COINTEL program. How they used that in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, and also how they created, snitching with particularly the federal cases when the federal government took over much of the prosecution of drug cases when they federalized most of the stuff, and gun crimes. They created a class of people who may have been in criminal activities themselves, so-called criminal activities, but many times weren't, but were people that they tapped to do snitching. And then, of course, some years ago, if you would go back for a moment, the Bush administration had passed something, was it called TIPS, I think it was, Terrorist Information Prevention System. And they were going to have massive numbers of snitches, political snitches, that they were going to recruit, millions that they were going to recruit. Now, some kind of publicity or leak got out, and somebody leaked it, within the agency, and it came out, and they had to disavow it. But I don't think they have totally disowned it. You know, you might disown, you know, like this, oh no, we're not doing that. But that don't mean that you disowned it. You're still doing it. You know, you want to do it. Or you want to find another way of doing it, put it under another name or whatever. And so, you know, this whole thing is related to state control. Now, I tell you this, and you know, when I talk to some people sometimes about all this kind of thing, some people get demoralized and think, oh my goodness, the state's got all power, and they got all these influence, they got this and they got that. They're not doing this from a position of strength. They're doing this to try to stave off struggles of people to destroy the status quo. You know, they know themselves. They plan long term. They plan longer term for situations, so they see it coming. They might not be able to prevent it, quite honestly, but they can see it coming. And so they feel they're going to need it. They're going to need a big change. So, you know, understanding how the snitching developed, a lot of it, you know, the informant system. It goes back even further than the 60s. But I use that contemporary theory because it's, you know, it's really powerful and sustained and continued since that time. You know what I'm saying? So it's all related to state power. You know, people don't see, even if you don't see how the state's doing it, in your understanding, it is related to state power. You know what I'm saying? And so there's at one point they used to use the, is that the Chamber of Commerce, the American Legion, and all of the different historical periods. They've used them to break the left and to break anarchist groups and to break. They used it against the Garden movement, this kind of thing. Before the FBI was even created. You know what I'm saying? They've used these kinds of entities to break up what they call red or activism, or red left. You know, activism as they put it in their files. And so we need to understand that. What's happening then, so when we get to today, we have a pretty good grasp of what they're doing. So it's to neutralize groups like us and people like us. And so what they did here, they hear about what we're doing. And with the Southern Christian Liars Club, which is now under the control of the police department, as is the NACP, they will go and put on meetings and invite the police and tell the police how much they love them and this is, you're wonderful and you're stopping crime and so forth and so on, and you can kill as many as you want. They're not of our class anyway. And I mean, that's just essentially what they're saying. You know, those riffraff, kill as many as you want, you know. We don't care, you're enforcing the law. That's all they care about. And they don't say about anything else. They're clear about whose class allegiance and whose class line they're parroting. They know that, they're clear. They don't even pretend anything else. And so we have to be clear that they are enemies, they are class enemies. We can pretend like somehow they're going to come up and we want to join with you. The police, the so-called police agency, wants to come in and join with us. And I got a letter yesterday saying that they want to come and join with us to fight police brutality. And they've been doing this around the country. This is part of counterinsurgency. When we did a thing in Atlanta some years ago, somebody from, what was it, military intelligence, actually wrote us a letter wanting to come and become part of the program. See, so they want you to give them the authority. They said, well, we're in here because Lorenzo told us we could come. He said he wanted us to come in and take pictures of everybody. I mean, they do bullshit like that, you know, so you have to be very acutely aware of that. So I don't want to dominate it, but I just want to put that out there. We are being confronted with this counterinsurgency. Really here, I mean, more than any place I've been in terms of organizing. The level of counterinsurgency, the control of the media and all this stuff is more blatant and over here than anywhere I've been. The attempt to stop you from having demonstrations, just like yesterday and things we do around here. We met at City Hall. We don't ask anybody. I mean, we don't ask anybody, can we do this, can we do this, just go ahead and do it. And the one time we are asking these people about the Klan, you know, at that Klan demonstration, oh no, we're having somebody come in to sing and dance in that space, and you can't use it, you know, that kind of thing. So all this is counterinsurgency, you know, whether they hit you with a gun, hit you with a stick or whatever, or just blocking you, it's all counterinsurgency. That's right.
Right.
That's my
And
point.
they've taken that and applied it.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is exactly what I'm saying. Without, maybe being long-winded saying it, but that's exactly what I'm saying.
And let me say that this was also crystallized in, during, in the seventies, when, Nixon had his enemies list.
That's right.
And,
Thank you.
it wasn't just, radical organizations, they had churches, black student organizations, they had all kinds, of, like I said, North Civic clubs or whatever, anybody that would be possibly engaged in any kind of activity, they would be on that list. And, and it was published, I think it was about 50 different types of groups and stuff and communities. And, so these are the kind of things that they do. And it's called, low intensity warfare now. Where they'll identify somebody as an individual in the community. And if that person, he or she stands up, then they're going to do everything to get some people in the community to discredit that person or whatever movement that they're trying to create.
Right. Um, could you, well, I don't know if you want to talk about how, in the sixties, people like, Father, is it O'Neill, what's his name? Yeah.
Eugene
I mean,
O'Neill.
no, the priest, they work with the Black Panther Party.
And to connection with
Free breakfast for children program and other stuff.
other.
Well, because, they used counterinsurgency, but they tried to use counterinsurgency to drive those people out of supporting the Black Panther Party.
Well, yeah, and they continue to try to do that. But the example he's showing them is an Episcopalian priest in Oakland, California, who became very close to the Black Panther Party. In fact, he allowed his church to have the first free breakfast program, in, 1968, at his, at his church, I think it was in North Oakland. And he was very active in helping the Black Panther Party to accumulate the food and stuff for the breakfast program. They did various things. He was definitely a victim of counterinsurgency. One of the most blatant things they tried to do fairly soon after the breakfast program started was that right after, a couple days after Dr. King was assassinated, Father Neal had proposed that there be kind of a community service. He said, let's do a community service, to commemorate Dr. King, and also the Black Panther Party, wanted to do something also. So he said, let's do it together at my church. And what happened was that as they were in the process of having people come to the church to do the service, the Oakland police show up, and they say, we had a report that somebody, there was a robbery, somebody who robbed somebody was running through your church, which is a blatant lie. And, so Father Neal said, no, nobody's been through the church, nobody's robbed anybody, and you're not coming in my church, and he didn't let him in. And then, he as a minister of the choir who supported the Black Panther Party, he was ostracized by other ministers because, because the Black Panther Party were these dangerous revolutionaries, right? So that's another form of counterinsurgency. And, that kind of thing still happens today. If anybody wants to try to speak up and do the right thing, they will be, it's just another form. They're ostracizing them in the communities, make people in the community distrust them. So it becomes hard for some people to want to continue to struggle, because they're cast on the outside. And it's something that happened back in the 60s, but trust me, it still happens today. They might be a little bit more sophisticated about it, because they got more different techniques, but it definitely happens, definitely continues to happen today.